Welcome to your first day of class, everyone. I'm Marketing Communications Manager Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we're here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we've designed this webinar that will cover all the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let's introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Del Hierro. He joined Trident in 2010 and currently serves as the department chair in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Del Hierro earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and for student motivation. Next, we have Tasha Kiratin. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as Senior Manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member of the Committee of Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. She's a Trident alum graduating from the Master of Arts in Education program and is currently a Doctor of Education student. Joining us during the Q&A session will be Christina Sines, a Student Success Advisor 3 in our Center for Student Success. She has held a number of roles during her 8 years at Trident, including Supervisors of Graduate Advisors. Her dedication to meeting student needs is demonstrated through compassionate, active listening, seeking to understand and striving to act in the best interests of her students. Just a few notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Find the questions box, type in your question, hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions and we'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment, and so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Del Hierro is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end, so stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun And this will help with your motivation. This is something, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you. It's not to be upset with you. It's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed. And that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. You've probably built, hopefully you built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number, note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning. So I'd always ask your teacher, but the key is I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class. And then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper maybe by the weekend so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Del Hierro, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Del Hierro, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing that comes out in your writing. And so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment? Is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically, and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident for careers at trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4, careers at trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session.
Well, welcome everyone to the new session. We are glad that you could make today's webinar. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm Dr. James Shriver. I'll be your moderator today for the Q&A session. And joining our panel today, we have Dr. George Delahero, we have Miss Christina Saenz, and Mr. Kimo Reyes. So we have representation from the faculty, from the student success team, and from admissions. So some valuable resources for you here this afternoon. As a reminder, if you'd like to submit a question, you can do so by navigating in the control panel to the questions box and submit your questions there. So we will now go ahead and get started. Our first question, Kimo, I think this would fall in your lane, is we have someone who's looked at the website, new student, they're trying to navigate scholarships. They're asking, basically, it's a service member, what scholarships are out there that are available for military students that they can take advantage of it as they progress through their journey. So how would you advise them?
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to be here today as a guest speaker. Real quick, before I get into it, I just want to do a quick intro so the audience understands where I'm coming from. So I am a senior admissions advisor here at Trident University. A little background on myself: I am a retired Marine, served 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I actually earned my bachelor's and my master's while I was serving. I have a lot of pride on the bachelor's because I actually earned that while I was deployed overseas. So if there's any in attendance today that has those kind of questions or is currently serving overseas and is here today, I can answer any of those questions or concerns that you may have. So to kind of go into that, the beautiful thing about Trident University and the scholarships, and I actually found out it was applied to me automatically as a student. We have a couple that I want to focus on. So the first one, and to answer the question, so we have a military success scholarship. The military success scholarship applies for any of the undergrad degree programs, and as long as you hit the requirements, once you have exhausted your military tuition assistance, that's when the scholarship gets applied, and it cuts the TA in half, so bringing it down to about $500, which is great, and especially for the folks that are military students here today, understanding the fiscal year, right? The fiscal year in the military side ends on September 30th, considering that we're already in the month of August. So something to consider when you're looking at military scholarships. And of course, you can find all that information on our trident.edu website for additional details. Now, the Willem Jogini, and one of the reasons why I really love this scholarship is because it applies to the graduate level degrees. And if you're currently serving on active duty or in the reserves, it's $1,300 per class. The Willem Jogini scholarship gets applied, and it covers that $300 difference. So for all our military folks that's utilizing military TA, you apply for the $1,000, and then the Willem Jogini scholarship gets applied, covering the extra $300 that gets applied. Again, going back to the fiscal year, so once you exhausted all your TA during the fiscal year, the Willem Jogini also gets applied, and it cuts your military tuition in half as well. So the cost of the course gets cut by 50%, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Thank you. And that's a great explanation. I know with multiple scholarships and opportunities, there's great opportunities, but there can be a chance for confusion there. So I know the Trident website does lay out the scholarships, but also working with their admissions advisor, or once they're a little further along in the coursework, student success can be a great resource there in making sure that you're taking advantage of all those opportunities. So thank you very much. Great explanation there. And Dr. Delahero, question for you. Someone in our audience really enjoyed the format of academic writing slides. So I thought that really broke that down nicely as well. I was going to mention that to you. where, you know, it talks about the intro, the body, and then the conclusion, and just sort of a little overview of how to approach that. Any recommendations, students asking basically for recommendations on APA format, where they should go to for initial guidance, and then if they have issues in their coursework challenges, maybe coming back to school, how can they approach that?
Yeah, great. I'm glad somebody enjoyed that. I always kind of cringe when I see myself recording, when I see that recording, but I'm glad it was helpful. Regarding APA resources, there are a number there are quite a few that are listed under your resources drop-down menu of your TLC portal. So there are a number of writing guides, one for graduate level students, one for undergraduate level students. There's also a writing workshop. All of this kind of integrates APA. And then the external resource that I like to use is Purdue Owl. I also teach and work with students at the doctoral level, and I'll be the first to say that I am not an APA guru at all, and I teach doctoral students. So if you're concerned about APA, rest assured that some of your faculty aren't even experts in APA, me being one of them. But Purdue Owl, Purdue University has an online writing lab, Purdue Owl. And it's really the gold standard in online, in the APA online like resource. It's a free resource, easy to navigate. It's updated to APA 7, and I use it quite frequently on my own. So don't let APA be a roadblock for you to move forward in your classes and get your work in. Trust me, it's gonna take practice. You're not gonna get it perfect, and even when you've spent years and years studying APA and using it, you're still not gonna be an expert. And that's when they change it up on you, and then there's APA 8. So Purdue Owl is actually the resource that I use most often, but we do have some drop-down resources for you that can help you with APA citation and formatting of your papers as well. And those are on your TLC drop-down menu on your TLC homepage.
Okay, great, thank you. I know I have used Purdue Owl as well, and the drop-down menu, the 7th edition APA guide is pretty easy to navigate there as well. Also, I would add that as a faculty member myself, if you're having specific issues, you know, your instructors should be providing you feedback. Follow that feedback. If you have further questions, reach out to them, connect with them, find out what they're expecting, or if you're doing something, you know, apart from that, sort of how to tweak that to make it work. And your writing will improve as you go through the program for sure. So
just one other note.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
yeah.
One more note. Yeah, I think so. The biggest thing about APA is not so much the technical piece of formatting, I would say. It would just be citing and referencing your resources. A lot of students just don't insert citations, or they paraphrase things, or they rewrite things thinking that it's coming from their own words, or they'll copy and paste things and use without quotations and just overlook what is needed for citing and referencing where your material is. You don't have to be a great writer, but I encourage you to be a good rewriter. And that's actually, I learned that statement. That actually came from one of my favorite researchers, Joe Cusio. He's just a fantastic researcher, but he'll say, I'm not a great writer, I'm a great rewriter. And what that means is he synthesizes ideas from a variety of different people, a variety of different articles and sources. And he has a way of synthesizing and summarizing these ideas in his own way. And then he references where he's getting the information. So don't get that confused with rewording things, because we can tell if you just reword things, that is a violation of academic integrity. But do your best to synthesize and summarize a variety of different articles, and then include that reference. You'll get into trouble if you forget to include that APA reference. And just know, especially for you new undergraduate students, you're going to come into classes with faculty who are prepared to help support you. No one's gonna slap you on the wrist and wave their finger at you. We're here to help you. But if you're violating the academic integrity policy, then you would want to know that, right? So we're here to support you. We want you to be successful, there is no judgment. We're here to support you in any way, including APA and referencing your material. But we want you to shine and be successful in this program.
No, great addition. Thank you very much. And honestly, in my experience, many times where there are citation issues or where it could appear that there's an academic integrity issue, it's that students may just not understand how to appropriately cite or cite direct quotes or that kind of thing. So you're right, and that could be a quick review of the Purdue Owl or discussion with a faculty member might make a big difference in their work. So thank you very much for the additional info there. Okay, Kimo, we will come to you. I think we lost Christina there. So I'll come back to you with this next question. It is a student who looks like they are possibly deployed military and asking about due dates and time zones. So could you speak to, and you as well, Dr. Del Hara, you may have some feedback on this, but submitting work, the time zones required and how students can access the coursework if they're in other areas in different time zones as well.
Oh gosh, okay. I can speak from one personal experience. I started my degree when I was deployed. We were actually in Korea, and I know the time difference was very different when we were out there, and let alone trying to get internet service and etc. So I would highly recommend to all the students that are overseas. I think it goes without saying, communication is key. We like myself and like all the staff here at Trident University, we want you to succeed. And in order to help you, definitely communicate with your student success advisor. Communication, with your finance advisor is key. I am an admission advisor, but I also stay readily available to all students, no matter the time zone. So emails is always usually the best way to communicate. Ask those questions. We are here for you, just like you've been hearing, throughout this webinar, and we really mean it. We want you to be successful, and in order to do that, we need to understand what you need. We understand that you're overseas, so if there's things like extensions or assistance, that we will have those things available to you and help you as much as possible. I myself, when I was overseas, the big thing was is that the easiest way to communicate with the staff was via email, and I would send out emails and timely responses. I would get a response within a few hours or the following day. And I constantly did that while I was overseas and deployed. And as you can see, as a result, I've like I said earlier, I've earned my degree. So it was a lot of gratitude, to the staff. So it's nice to actually be sitting in the seat, providing the same service that was given to me when I was overseas. And I just want to reassure you folks that, time and your time overseas, we understand that. And we consider those things when we're communicating with you, and we try our best, our very, very best to be timely. Because if I understand this, as well for all the military folks here, we kind of like things quick, fast, and in a hurry. We bring that same concept whenever you're reaching out to us for help and support.
And I'll just piggyback off of that. That was great, Kimo. So all due dates are going to be at 11:59 p.m. on Pacific time on the Sunday of the module due date. Your modules, especially if you're all modules are 2 weeks long. So if you're in a 4-module course, it's an 8-week class. Every 2 weeks is the due date, and that includes your case, your SLP, and all of your discussion posts. One of the questions here is, do I need or it kind of dovetails into, do I need to complete the case assignment first and the SLP and then the discussion? And the answer to that is no, not necessarily. There might be times where you have to go in order, but the beauty of the Trident system is flexibility. And so I would strongly recommend you go about your courses and your modules in this way. You want to focus on momentum. Start momentum early by posting in your discussions, which is one of the reasons why we ask you to post your discussion first, because it's kind of it's less it's not as high stakes as your case in your SLP. As a reminder, or if you don't know this, the case assignment is worth 50 points. Each case assignment is worth 50 points. Each SLP is 30 points, and each discussion is 20 points. Don't skimp on those discussions, because a lot of students do, and that significantly drops down their grade. So don't be that person. Hop into those discussions, do your research, give a good, thoughtful response, ask questions. My recommendation for those discussions is to hop in every other day, but make it a priority at least once a week. These are just general guidelines and my advice, but to Kimo's point, if you stubbed your toe and you need to go to the emergency room, or if you're deployed, or you have an emergency at work or in your personal life, your faculty is here to support you, and trust us, there's not an excuse that you can give us that we haven't heard before. We've heard it all, and so we have policies and procedures to help you, and the only way we can help you is if you reach out to us. So those due dates, going back to the due dates, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on that Sunday of the end of the module. But if you need more flexibility, then reach out to us. Send us that email so that we can at least know that you're alive. We can support you. We can touch base with you, give you more advice with how to navigate the modules, and there's flexibility there. I would also encourage you to, going back to the case in the SLP, manage your time in a way that that works best for you. If it works best for you to build momentum to complete the smaller assignment first, which sometimes is the SLP, most often is the SLP, then get that momentum in early and build that momentum. Get the SLP in that first week, and then that second week do the case assignment, which is a heavier assignment. If you want to get the points first, focus the majority of your time on the case assignment. That's where the majority of your points will come from. Then do that one first, and build that confidence in yourself, get it under your belt, and move on with with your module. But again, you have flexibility here, and so I just want you to think about that as far as when you're developing your time management schedule.
Okay, great advice. Thank you both. And I would second that. Just communicate. If you do have that situation where the student that originally asked the question is deployed or you're in different time zones, communicate there. Also, don't wait until the end of a course to let your instructor know that you're having trouble, because there may be some deadlines where they can't do certain things at certain times. So communicate early. Dr. Del Hierro, question as well as far as practice submission. So we have a question: Can a student submit an assignment ahead of time to the instructor, or how can they submit practice submissions? No, one instance in the Dropbox as well. There's some opportunity. So could you speak to that, please?
Yeah. So good points here. There's two different questions here. So first is submitting to your instructor ahead of time if you're looking for feedback. My approach is this. Look, I want you to make progress in the class. So get your assignment done, submit it into the Dropbox. I'll give you the feedback, whether good, bad, or ugly. I'll give you the feedback, and I'll almost always give you an opportunity to resubmit, especially if you haven't earned full points on the assignment. If you've earned an A, I'm probably not going to accept a rewrite because you've already earned an A. Move on with the rest of the class. But I will say this: some faculty members won't take that approach. So communicate with each and every faculty member within your program to ask if that's something you want to do. The practice Dropbox is something different. Your faculty members more than likely will not review that practice Dropbox. It's for you to check your similarity score, for you to grow in terms of as a writer, and to help you develop in just writing the most authentic papers you can. The practice Dropbox, probably the biggest piece there is the similarity score that will pop up, so you can take a look at your similarity score. If your similarity score, which is tracked with each assignment, is too high, then it's probably, you should probably take that and rewrite it in a way where the similarity score is less. So a lot of students use the practice Dropbox there. The faculty members don't. It's completely ungraded. Your faculty, you should use that in a way that gives, where you have the confidence that your faculty member will not view it. If you want your faculty member to view your assignment, you submit it in the case box. But again, the practice Dropbox is a great way for you to review your similarity score, rewrite your papers if necessary, and bring down that similarity score if that's something that's concerning you. And there's an unlimited amount of times, I believe there is an unlimited amount of times where you could submit your assignments. I'm not sure. I've seen quite a few papers there, so I'm not sure if there's a cap. So take advantage of that if that's something that's, you know, of concern.
No, thank you. That's great. And I've seen multiple submissions as well. And I know some students are a little apprehensive of the Turnitin platform or the similarity scores because they feel like it's, you know, an academic integrity checker, where in reality, if you look at it the other way, it can really help improve your writing. I know for me personally, you know, if something may be a direct quote that I didn't realize, or maybe I didn't realize I had quoted that, it's a way to go back and properly cite and do those things. So use it as a tool, help improve your work. And if all the feedback really constructively, that's a good point. So we'll take one more question. I have a question, Chemo, this will come to you. It is based on course load, what would you recommend? So a student looks like they're starting out taking one class, but once they get situated, what would you recommend for a bachelor's student as far as a recommended course load as an admissions advisor?
You know, my recommendation, you know, especially following the intro course, the TUX class, you know, I usually tell students, you know, based on your experience writing papers, you know, about yourself, and through the TUX course, they can generally get a good sense of, you know, their skills, their writing skills, you know, their communication skills with their classmates, with their professors. So if they can handle the TUX course and writing papers, I would always recommend taking 2 courses at a time following. And of course, it all kind of ties into if they're using financial aid, you know, having the being enrolled in full-time status, etc. And it all comes down to time, right? Time. I know a lot of folks are working and they're pursuing a college degree and they have families. So I know there's a lot of moving parts in a lot of people's lives, especially for folks that are overseas and families that are overseas attending school. If they feel confident and comfortable after taking one class with us, which is the intro, the TUX course, then I would always advise, like, consider taking, you know, 2. And generally when folks start off in the undergrad level, you know, I always recommend to students to focus on getting the general education classes knocked out. English, math, science, all the things that everybody's familiar with, especially after transitioning from, you know, high school on to college level. So 2 classes at a time, Dr. Schreiber, I would recommend that. And again, you know, working around people's lives.
Yeah,
Right.
the only place I'd like to just kind of emphasize is working with your financial aid advisor to make sure that all of the requirements are checked off. But Chemo pretty much covered everything in that response.
Well, and to both your points, one of the great things about Trident is that you do have the ability to have that flexibility. I would just just lean forward, keep moving, whether it's 1 class, 2 classes, just, you know, focus on that next assignment, and keep moving forward, and you can do it. So, well, thank you for all of our attendees today, and definitely thank you to our panelists. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. If anyone has additional questions, feel free to type those in the chat box until we close out, and I'll reach out to any unanswered questions. If you did have questions that weren't answered, we'll reach out to answer those as well. You can also email Dr. Del Hierro or Chemo directly, And at the conclusion of the webinar, if you would, take a moment to complete the survey you'll receive. It really helps, those answers help us to improve the quality of events and resources that we're providing to you. So as we close out today, I would like to transition over to introduce you to one of Trident's remarkable graduates, Dr. Chadwick Mcguire, as we close out. So thank you everyone for attending, and we'll close with this video from Chad.
Hello, my name is Dr. Chadwick Mcguire. The biggest obstacle, having enough time. So 24 hours in a day, and you've got to split that between the kids, the spouse, the job, the degree. That was my biggest obstacle to overcome. Making time for everything that I wanted to make time for, and still getting the degree accomplished. Time management, making myself sit down even though I'm tired, and take it one letter, one word, one sentence, one paragraph at a time. And I knew that if I took it one day, 1 week, and 1 month at a time, that eventually I would get to the end and be able to say that I accomplished the goal that I set out for myself. And the same holds true for you and any goal that you set for yourself. If you take it one day at a time, one piece at a time, and not allow yourself to get overwhelmed, then you too can make it to the finish line and accomplish any of your goals.
Trident alumni, forged by the tip of the spear.